Well, before I really get started, because I know you want the whole 90-minute homily, does our sanctuary look awesome or what? Prettiest church in the Archdiocese of Detroit, way prettier than the cathedral. It's awesome. So, I walked in here tonight and before tonight at 5 o'clock for the kids' mass, which was wild. And it was so wonderful to see rejoicing in the way our beautiful historic church is decorated. All this for a little boy born in the middle of nowhere, in conquered Judea. The world was at total peace. But don't be deceived. The world wasn't at peace because it was at peace. The world was at peace because the Roman Empire was unchallenged and had killed hundreds of thousands of people to bring about what had been called Pax Romana. It's really important to understand that because while it was appropriate that the Savior of the universe should come in a time of historic peace, we can't for a minute believe that he was coming to rejoice what was going on around him. And I think we have to put Jesus' birth, the difficulty of it, in perspective. How many have driven up north in the middle of a really bad snowstorm? Really bad. Okay, yeah, absolutely. I have too. It's a little scary, isn't it? Yes. Where you can't see anything on the road. You have now described a scenario that was 14 billion times better than the one Jesus was born into. Because I want you to imagine the following. You have hardly any money. You're with your wife. You're an elderly gentleman. You're in the middle of nowhere. Not from a place you are from. Looking for a place to stay. It is freezing because in the desert it gets cold at night. She is massively pregnant. I'm talking any second now. Oh, but there's more. There's no OBGYN around. There's no emergency room. There's no, oh, don't worry, they're going to give me drugs so it doesn't hurt. There are no diapers. There are no sanitary cloths. There's no TP. It's a bad world to live in. And you are with your honey and your baby to come. And then you walk into your suite where you have been allowed in for this really wonderful experience. Has anyone really been close? Now I'm talking close to a really dirty sheep and a really dirty cow and oxen. Yeah, oxen. There's a smell, if only they could put it in a bottle. Boy, that would sell out at Macy's or Nordstrom's overnight. Scent of oxen. And that's what Jesus was born into. That's the scene. And mom and dad are unsure how long they can keep Junior there. Unsure. Oh, and by the way, Dad isn't even enjoying the normal benefits of married life. How about no, he's not the real dad? How about there was no preliminary fun involved in this? How about he had a dream and she was visited by an archangel? somehow the fun factor on my funometer is going down here. And this is important to remember, because the instance of the birth of the Christ was planned from the beginning of time. We heard in our very articulately read first reading that Janet read for us how 1,000 years before what was going to happen is described. And for those of you who were at Mass last Sunday, you heard how the last king of Israel, when he disobeyed God through his prophet, was told, don't worry, we're going to bring in the Son through a virgin. All of this was planned. Now, at first that sounds, because we've heard the story many times, and we've all watched Charlie Brown Christmas, and we know the Linus Gospel, and we're all sitting there going, yeah, Father John, it's beautiful, it's a nice story. No. It's beautiful history. It all happened. It's not a nice story. It's beautiful history. And now we have to probe further and ask the ultimate question, why did the Father do this? Why did the Father send his Son? Why did he need to? And the answer is very direct. But for him sending his Son, you and I were doomed. Doomed. You see, we were sort of a failed experiment. We were made in the image and likeness of God himself. And we made a mess of it. We hated each other. We killed each other. We stole from each other. We violated each other. And oops, we still do. In the Holy Land today, where Jesus the Christ lived, we desecrate it by horrible violence. 1,400 Israelis killed in the beginning of just this war. The response to that is 20,000 Palestinians killed. There's no right, there's no wrong, there's just horror. And yes, there's geopolitical aspects of it I could get into. Yes, there's horrible terrorism. I get it. But the end game is thousands have died in the land Jesus walked in, and human beings can't make peace. And the worst part is most of these wars have happened supposedly in the name of God. I wonder if he's a little angry. But there's great hope. You see, Christmas is hope and love. Christmas is about our fate, really, where we're headed. Now, a lot of people will concentrate on this peace on earth, goodwill to men business. And that's beautiful, isn't it? Sounds nice, doesn't it? Kind of sounds like the United Nations. When it was founded, it sounded nice. It sounded like it would be happy. That hasn't worked too well. That's not what peace on earth, goodwill toward men means. Peace on earth, goodwill towards men means that we have to understand why we were put here, and this is never going to be, I don't care how hard you work on it, heaven on earth. And peace on earth, goodwill to men does not mean that through your iPhone 7,260 code 40 that you'll get under the Christmas tree tomorrow morning, God help you, that you're going to find happiness in social media. That's not peace on earth, goodwill towards men. Sorry. And peace on earth, goodwill towards men is not going to be determined by the size of your 401k, by the size of your bank account, or whether or not you have an American Express Platinum card. None of those things will matter to God. Peace on earth, goodwill toward men means that we understand that this is not heaven on earth, that we are here for a temporary period of time, and the reason Christ came to visit us was to save us. And how we live our life shows whether we are working toward where he wants us to go. You see, made in his image and likeness, nothing is more important to God in his love for us that we come back to him. That's why he instituted the institution of marriage, which, by the way, is the indissoluble union between one man and one woman for the remainder of their natural life, forsaking all others. There is no other definition. How many newly engaged folks tonight? Raise your hand. Don't lie to a priest. There's got to be a couple. Accused in counsel, please rise. Right back there. Okay, stand up. Don't just, the hand's not going to do it. Let me see. Oh, yeah, baby. You know what you call that guy back there? Another guy marrying well above his station. Now, this is wonderful, and that's why God created the institution of marriage. That's the best news our parish has had since the 5 o'clock Mass. We had 3 of them. And it's wonderful. But how you live your life and how you treat your wife, and remembering that she's always to be honored and is your utter equal, and how you treat your husband, letting him watch those last 3 minutes of a football game without nagging him. These are all important things. This is all part of the magic of life that God gave us. And if you're a child, how you treat your parents and the respect you show toward them. And if you're a parent, how you treat your children and how you nurture them, and how you carry out the biggest promise you'll make in your life other than your marital vows, which was made back at the baptismal font when you promised to take your children to Mass every Sunday. That's the opportunity that Bethlehem gives us. That's why the Son came down from heaven. Now think of the deprecating form of what he did. He is God, the second person of the Trinity. God himself. And he becomes human for 33 years. And what's our answer to this great gift? What do we on the human team do? We kill him on the worst torture machine ever designed by man. And what does he do in response to that? He rises from the dead, stays with us for an extended period of time after he rises from the dead, and then ascends back to his Father, telling us that he's going to prepare a place for us. So, what's my Christmas message to you? My Christmas message to you is the glory of the manger is the glory of the crucifix. And the glory of the crucifix is the empty tomb. You can't just look at Christmas and see the cute little infant in the manger and say to yourself, oh, isn't it sweet? Isn't it cute? He is the one to be crucified. That's the only reason he showed up. He is the one to rise from the dead. That's his destiny. And in closing this homily tonight, I know you're all very saddened. You wanted me to go on for another hour, but write the complaints later. I take them all. Remember what you're going to hear in Epiphany just a little bit from now. When the wise men come to Jesus, they give him 3 gifts. They give him gold, and that's probably the money that Mary and Joseph used to save Jesus' life and take him to Egypt as they fled, to get away from Herod's dictate that all children in Bethlehem should be slaughtered. And then there's the frankincense. Well, we've been frankincensing every inch of this place tonight, haven't we? We got more incense going on around here than you can imagine. Fading away now after about 15 minutes, isn't it? Frankincense doesn't last very long, does it? It just honors. That's what it does. It honors a king. And so it's appropriate that we use incense. And then, let's talk about the most important gift. The last one. How many of you have ever gone to a baptismal party? You know, like a breakfast, lunch, dinner after a baptism. Anyone gone to one of those before? Yeah. Anyone ever brought anything for a funeral as a gift? No, you'd be kind of kicked out, wouldn't you? But that is the third gift and the most important gift involved in the entire nativity. Myrrh. Myrrh is the oil we put on the body of a king. At his birth, his death was celebrated. Because, folks, that's the only reason why Jesus came. Not for himself, not to hang on to life, not to put himself first. He could have taken himself off the cross. He came here to be horribly tortured, to be humiliated, and to defeat death for you and I. My friends, I celebrate Christmas in a way every time I have a funeral mass, and I'll have 2 next week. Because there is Christ's victory. There is heaven. When he who has been claimed by Christ, she who has been claimed by Christ in baptism, enjoys the fruits of the nativity, the promise of eternal salvation, as long as we follow the way. Whose way? The way of the little Christ child.